Morning, everybody. It's funny, being gone 1 week, it feels like I've been gone forever. So much has happened. I'm sure a lot has happened with you too as well. For those that don't know, is I have this very, very small staff position with the Sun Valley Writers Conference. And some of our other members do. In fact, we're really connected with the Writers Conference. Was there anyone here last week? It seems like everyone at some point in their history here have volunteered for it or attended as an attendee. So we really support the Writers Conference. And the Writers Conference this year was really a kind of a microcosm of life right now. So on one hand, we were so excited and joyful to have the conference because last year it didn't happen. Like so many things didn't happen, and like so many things seemed to be on hold. And it was just this amazing thing to come together, but we had to put it together in a completely different way. And also it was planned we had last January, some of the last plans, because you have to do these things ahead of time, and going with what is going to be going on with the world. How will we be able to physically be together in July? So it was like, I don't know. So it turns out we could have done some things with a little bit, some lax a little bit more. But so at the same time, in our lives, we have this celebration of some sense of a little bit more of normalcy, but it's different. And there may be part of that different that we may feel a little uncomfortable with still, and hoping that it could be a different way. But as even in the Writers Conference, there's some things that we did. It was like, why didn't we ever think of doing it like that before? Because it's so much better. So great things come out of that. And also, I think last year and a half, some people have a sense of feeling just stuck even, or not moving. But a lot of movement has happened in this last year. And I really saw that this last weekend particularly. And so many people making major changes in their life, not only now, but through these last several months. So life keeps creating. So the one thing that I always look for when I am working the Writers Conference is that I'm looking for that little bit of inspiration from different authors. That the authors come and speak about their work, but actually they come to speak about life. And I think sometimes they come just as an excuse with a book, not really as an excuse, and something amazing happens in what they have to say that in some ways has very little to do with their writing. And that's what I'm always looking for, that bit, especially this year, of after coming out of this year and not having the conference last year, what inspiration can I get? And I really needed some inspiration. And its inspiration started with their theme, which is simply horizons, which is you have the known earth meeting the unknown in the sky and seeing where the world will take you. And so that's what I was looking for in this conference. Where are we going? What possibilities could be? And after talking ourselves into believing that for so long that there weren't possibilities, realizing, you know what? There's lots of possibilities. So usually when I come back after the Writers Conference, I share some things that a couple authors had to say. And I'm going to do that again today, and how it really touched me. If you read my blog, you had a little bit of a preview. So John Lithgow closed the conference. I love John Lithgow. I knew, but that he was an author, but you think of him more of an actor more than anything else, an artist. But it was great. And what was great with what he was talking about, they showed a couple clips of his work. And one of my favorites from Third Rock from the Sun, has everyone seen Third Rock from the Sun, know what it is? So basically, if you don't know, it's about this sounds terrible, but it's not. Don't synopses always sound kind of terrible? Like, who would go see that? Anyway, 4 aliens take human form and come to Earth, to do research. But they are so clueless as human beings that they can't keep getting themselves out of trouble. And what was great, this one clip that they showed, is that they realized taxes, we have to pay taxes. And then they had the idea of, hasn't anyone thought that you could cheat on taxes? And then, so this whole scene was them going to the IRS and being audited, and it's very funny. So anyways, they showed that. But what he shared was so amazing. He said something that really affected me. He said, while you are waiting, create. While you are waiting, create. And he likened it to his own path and the paths of many artists, whether you're fine artists or actors, that there's this idea that you are waiting for your life to begin. That as an actor, until you get those real meaty parts and people know you internationally and you have that movie that's everywhere, that your life doesn't begin until you have that recognition. And that really translates to, well, everybody. Haven't we all said at some point in our life, my life will start when? And you could fill in the blanks at different parts of your life. It might have been when I get a certain type of job or a certain type of house or have a certain relationship or live in a certain way, or if I finally get certain things in my rear view mirror. Like life will begin when I'm done with high school or college or a training program, that we put life kind of out there somehow and we're waiting. And I've done that. Haven't you done that? And you're in a process of something like, boy, I can't wait until this is done. Then, watch me then. I'll just be, going out into life. But then, of course, there's something else to wait for. There's always something to wait for. And so he said that while you're waiting, do something with it. In other words, create a life. Create a life even if it doesn't look like what you think you're waiting for. In fact, I have found that to happen more often than not. The thing that you put up on that pedestal really doesn't come because you didn't really need it. Something else showed up that was more significant, or that touched you in a more deeper way, or you just have this, catharsis within yourself that says, well, why was I waiting for that? When there was something so much more amazing. So his whole point was, don't wait or pretend to wait, and create anyway. And I have found that life a lot just has a way of just moving. That the more we hold up something as the thing, that's not the thing. And again, this last year and a half, I think it'd be easy to say we were waiting. Oh, if we only didn't have to stay home, or if we didn't have to do this, or wouldn't it be great for that? But we were all creating at the same time. Now, think about it. As you were sitting at home going, oh my God, I can't go to the movies, and then all of a sudden you started to create without even knowing about it. Or it maybe didn't hit you till later on that you realized that you had started a new project or a new thing, or you were like, the prince or princess of Zoom doing all these amazing things, or like Nelda's doing classes in Spanish on Zoom, that you realize that life didn't stop. That at first you thought you were waiting, and it's like, I needed to slow down, so much is happening. So don't wait. Don't use that excuse. And so what was paired with this that was so great was I crowned the best person at the conference this year. So that's always my judgment, and I don't give out an award, and I don't give trophies to them. But I'm always looking for that surprise, the one that I'm not really sure. And first, the only thing I can guarantee is I'm going to mispronounce her name. She is an Iranian American, Feruza Dumas, and I'm going to maybe just call her Ms. Dumas because the first name is treacherous in the way that I am mispronouncing it. And so this is how I stumble upon things. So what do I do at the conference? So for those who have not been at the conference, there's kind of two things that are happening. You have these larger presentations in the pavilion, and then you have what we call these breakout sessions, smaller group things with authors that happen simultaneously. So in normal years, is there even normal anymore? There would be like 10 of these things going on simultaneously. So in this kind of abbreviated version, this year there was 4. And so my job, one of my biggest jobs, is that, and these happen in like mostly in tents that we construct that can seat about 100. So my job was to practically live in tent B with these different authors that would come in, and 2 of these of the 10 things that I hosted in Tent B was Ms. Dumas. And she was kind of tricky because she had a title of what she was going to do, and she didn't. And so people came thinking they were going to get one thing, but actually they got something much better. So her thing, if you read the program or looked online at the program, that she was going to give commentary on how you write your memoir. So I know there was people there, pen and notepad, because they wanted to know how to write a memoir. She spent about 30 seconds on that. And then she went to the really important stuff. So she shared that she started to write her, I guess, memoir or her stories before she even thought she would be a writer. She realized how important it was to tell your own story. And as she said, if you don't tell your own story, someone else will tell it for you. So you need to write your own story. And the next step of that is that you need not only tell your own story, but to write your own story, because someone else might step in and try to write your own story as well. And as she instructed us, it's not just saying the who's, the how's, you did this, you got married, you had a job. That might be kind of the window dressing of your life, but that's not your story. Our jobs and things are excuses for us to show up as who we are in the world. It's to get us out the door. That's not our story. And so she went through some of her own stories of things that happened, and of course it was fun hearing some of the things that happened to her, and is naturally very humorous. Anyone here see her besides her? I know Sarah saw her. But this was so great. We can be so unaware of our own gifts. She wasn't aware that she was humorous, just naturally funny. And she said, her father was the real storyteller in her family. And as she was getting going as an author and being known for her, her brevity and lightness, and she just couldn't get it. And she said she had to call a friend from 6th grade to say, "Am I funny?" No, I just thought that struck me as like, oh, I have to call someone from my past to get confirmed that I'm funny. Like, no, yeah, actually, you were always funny. And so, oh, really? Oh, okay. And it says, people are telling me that I'm funny. That just really struck me. But as she told her stories, she was encouraging us to not only tell our stories, but as a way of going forward, to first look back at what I call our foundational stories of who we are. And she said, to start the process now, as we were in the audience, I'm going to share that with you. What are some of your foundational stories that have changed your life? Again, not because you got a job or something, but something happened that changed you at the depth of who you are. And she said, I'm going to give you the same advice. Of course, now, as we're all good students, we're like racking our brains. What is that story? And, everyone's like, oh. She said, it'll come a little bit later, maybe like a day or two later. That you'll think you'll come up with it now, but as you're brushing your teeth, it'll like hit you. And she said, and to take it to the next step. So it'll be a story that you're familiar with and you know that you learned from, but to have the intention now to go deeper with it. Why is it a foundational story for you? What did you really learn? And how did it serve as a springboard for something amazing in your life that you may not even now be conscious of? That she invited us to revisit that and go deeper with it. So again, you're all like, I can see your little wheels turning. What's my story? Again, it'll happen tomorrow in the shower, as you're dicing celery in your kitchen, as you're walking your dog, it'll hit you. So the last part of what I'm going to do today is tell you a story. I think it's a story I told a long time ago here. But with her inspiration, I figured out it was so much deeper. In fact, it kind of heralded in my life from the early 40s to now. That's a pretty big story. And I kind of knew, but I didn't know. So some of you, again, you might be semi-familiar with this, but there's more to it. So I started the School of Ministry in 1997. And it was, for me, the most amazing thing, an affirmation of what I really wanted to do in life. And one of the things that was going to happen in the first couple months is that there was going to be a school-wide retreat at a retreat center. And there was, at that time, I think 3 or 4 campuses, and everyone was going to come together. And I can't tell you how excited I was to go. I mean, like, bags are packed by the front doors. Like, can we go yet? Is it too early? Can I go? Can I get on the road? Can I go a day early? So the day before I was supposed to go, I got a call from a hospital in Scottsdale, Arizona. My dad was in the hospital. And the nurse said, "You need to come." And I was like, I have to admit it. I was like, what? I can't come. This amazing thing's going to happen in my life. I'm going on this retreat. And I said, well, okay, and I can be there on Monday, can I? Again, going to this retreat is the biggest thing that's going to happen in my life. And she says, he won't be here by Monday. So I have to admit to you, the first feeling I had was of great anger with my father. We had a difficult history, and I don't need to go into it. And somehow it's like, yet again, you're the cause of this thing that I don't want in my life, to miss out on something that I want so badly. Isn't it funny what we do with ourselves? Really? Isn't it just interesting what we do? But that's where I was, But just think of anything you just want so badly. And someone who you saw as somewhat of a nemesis in your life, in your mind, took it away. My dad didn't take it away. He was on his own path, getting ready to exit. But as I would find on this weekend, I learned a lot more in the hospital with my dad than on the retreat if I had gone. So it was interesting. First, I saw my dad, and he was just my dad. He was in a hospital bed, and he was fully conscious and able to have full conversations. But being so much like my dad, there was this wall. In fact, he had told the nurses, "Don't call my kids, I just want to die alone." And she actually practically pulled him by the ear and said, "Oh no, you're not going to do that to your kids or to yourself." And she got on the phone and called us. And I thought, well, what is this about? For me or for my dad, it's the same old thing. And so we left for a bit, came back, and at this point they put him on a ventilator. He was still fully conscious and awake, but he could no longer speak because he had this tube going down his throat. And something had changed. This man who seemed like this looming presence of terror in my life had nothing but terror in his eyes. He was so afraid. And just intuitively, and just knowing my dad, I think part of his fear was that, as they say, the jig is up and he's finally going to get his just desserts for some of the many unkind things that he did. And I could see so much in his eyes of just sheer panic and fear. And just wondering, for one thing, thinking, this is the most authentic moment I've ever had with my dad. He's actually showing what he's feeling, and it's not hidden. And then I had this amazing inner realization with this. And again, of putting him as, enemy number one in my life for so long. And I realized he's not just afraid now. He's always been afraid. In fact, that's been his motivation his whole life, to protect himself. He's always been afraid. And I can't tell you what it was like. It was like this burden was lifted off of my shoulders. That was amazing. It wasn't about him. It was about the burden that I was carrying and that the opportunity to put it aside. And at that point, for reasons that I can't remember, my brother and sister and I needed to leave the room and go talk to doctors or whatever. And we said, we'll be right back. And we started to leave. And I said to my brother and sister, go ahead. And I just came back. And again, he's still there in complete terror. And I said, you know, with all that he's done in his life, I said, it actually will be okay. If you choose to leave, you will be met by love. If you choose to stay, you will be met by love. And he had some relief. That's actually the last time I ever said to him. But then here's the extra that I got from this story, from this weekend. It changed the course of my life. So the work that I do as a minister, it's not my job or even ability to heal anyone. But it is my job to recognize and affirm that you do carry something, not to say that you're stuck with it, but to be heard. So my job is to hear you. And so many times in our lives that we'll say, I'm carrying this thing, and maybe someone says, oh no, that's nothing, or whatever. My job is to say, I see you. I see you. But the second part of that is to know that the universe is conspiring with you to allow you to let it go. And I'm not in control of how that happens, but part of what I do is to lend you some of my faith to say that it is possible. At the time of your choosing, at the time like when I walked into that hospital room, that the universe was conspiring with me to let it go. So my job is, in a sense, to witness that, to let you know that it's possible and it's available. The story changed my life. So that's what I'm inviting you to look for this week. And don't rack your brain about it. If you want to have that journey with yourself, just set the intention that you want to visit that story, whatever it is. And it may be one that you're not fully aware of, but that's how intentionality works. And at the right moment, as I say, the universe conspires to your greatest good. You'll know what that story is. And you'll get that little bit of extra deepness and meaning that you may not have considered before. And in that, you will tell your own story. And you will write the next chapter. So let's just take this within a bit. And so let us just be grateful. Let's be grateful in this crazy world that just at times seems to be absolutely lost, that we are grounded, that the presence of Spirit of the Divine is right where we are, is within all situations, mostly even when we can't see it. It is there calling to us, inspiring us, and conspiring to our greatest good at all times. And so we let go any resistance to that. We let go of things that we are waiting for. We just let it go. We allow life to unfold. We set the intention to be our greatest and best selves authentically in this world, helping make the world a better place. And as we do that, so much we are able just to give away and let go. And we do that now. So much that is unimportant, we just give it away. We let it rise off of our shoulders and put aside that burden and let it go. And as we began, we are now left with simply gratitude. Gratitude for this process. Gratitude for the miraculousness of this universe. And as we give thanks and let it go, we release completely into the heart and mind of Spirit, knowing that as we do so, miracles can happen. And so it is.